Today, we're diving into the razor's edge of modern warfare. We're talking about that high-stakes, high-tech duel between a missile screaming through the sky and the interceptor that's supposed to stop it. And to really see how this plays out, we're going to drop you right into the middle of the action. So, to really get a feel for how this technology works under immense pressure, we're going to use a hypothetical near-future conflict as our backdrop. The scene is set, the tension is sky-high, and some of the world's most advanced defense shields, well, they're about to be tested like never before.
And let's be clear, this isn't just a war game. We're imagining an active conflict. The real question here is, what happens when this brand new, integrated, regional defense network goes live for the very first time? This isn't just one country's system. It's a whole coalition trying to create one single, unified shield against a common enemy.
And they've got a really good reason to be worried. The stage was set in a previous, absolutely brutal 12-day war that saw a relentless barrage of ballistic missiles and drones. We're talking more than 500 ballistic missiles and over 1,000 drones. That's a level of attack where the sky itself literally becomes the battlefield.
So how in the world do you stop a missile that's screaming towards you at multiple times the speed of sound? Well, it all comes down to a super fast chain of events, and we're going to break down exactly what happens in those few critical seconds.
At its core, you can think of missile defense as a three-part team. First, you have the sensors, things like powerful radars and satellites. They're the eyes of the operation, constantly scanning. Then you have the command centers, which are the brains, making sense of all the data. And finally, you have the interceptors themselves. They're the fists, sent out to take care of business.
Okay, so let's use the famous Patriot system as an example. Here's how it goes down. First, its radar detects something. If the system decides it's a threat, the radar locks on, focusing all its energy on that one target. Then, launch. The interceptor blasts off, but it's not flying blind. It's constantly getting updates from the ground, kind of like an air traffic controller for a missile. And then, for those final nail-biting moments, the interceptor's own onboard seeker takes over to guide it straight to impact. Now, that final impact can happen in one of two ways. The older way is kind of like a shotgun blast. The interceptor explodes near the target, hopefully shredding it with shrapnel. But the newer method, hit to kill, is more like a sniper rifle. The interceptor literally smashes directly into the enemy missile. The sheer kinetic energy of that collision, we're talking hitting a bullet with another bullet, is enough to vaporize the threat. It's an absolutely incredible feat of engineering. So these systems sound pretty amazing, right? Almost foolproof. But how well do they actually work in the real world? Well, the answer is it's complicated. You hear about these super high success rates, but when you really dig into the data, the picture gets a lot murkier. Just look at this. It shows you how much the effectiveness can swing. Against simpler rockets, Israel's Iron Dome is about 90% effective, which is amazing. And the Patriot system, it had a jaw-dropping 100% success rate against Russia's advanced Kinjal missiles one night over Kyiv. But then look at this last bar. Against a modified Russian missile, that exact same system's effectiveness dropped to just 10%. So what gives? Why the huge drop?
It's because warfare is a constant, relentless game of cat and mouse. Attackers don't just sit still. They learn and they adapt. They start adding decoys to confuse the radars, they program their missiles to make sudden evasive maneuvers, and, maybe most importantly, they just fire a whole bunch of them at once to overwhelm the defenders.
And hey, this isn't just a problem on some far-off battlefield. According to the Center for Arms Control and Non-Proliferation, the system designed to protect the U.S. homeland, it has a success rate of just 55%. And get this, that's in highly scripted tests, not the messy chaos of a real attack. The big takeaway here is that these shields are far from invincible.
This brings us to a whole other part of the equation, the money. This isn't just about technology, it's about economics. It becomes a very expensive game of whack-a-mole. Think about it. If your shield costs a fortune and the arrows being fired at it are cheap, you could win every single engagement but still lose the war because you went broke.
Let this number just sink in for a second. $4 million. That is the price tag for a single advanced Patriot interceptor. Every time one of those things is fired, that's $4 million vanishing in a flash. Now imagine you need to fire dozens, maybe even hundreds of them in one night.
And you better believe that adversaries like Iran know this. This is the exact weakness they're trying to exploit. Their strategy is brutally simple and effective. It's called a saturation attack. They don't need to build a missile that's better or more expensive than a Patriot.
They just need to build 100 cheap drones and missiles for the price of one interceptor, and then fire them all at the same time.
So what do? You can't just keep firing $4 million missiles at $10,000 drones. You have to get smarter. You start rationing your best stuff. This is where a layered defense is key. You use cheaper systems for the cheaper threats, like using proven air-to-air missiles to shoot down drones. And you start looking at game-changing tech like Israel's Iron Beam laser, which can take out drone swarms for, literally, just a few dollars per shot.
Okay, so all of this, the tech, the tactics, the economics, it leads us to our final and maybe the most critical point of all. In a long, drawn-out fight, the battle isn't just one in the sky, it's one on the factory floor. Because having the best interceptor in the world doesn't mean a thing if you've run out of them.
And don't just take my word for it. Listen to what military experts are saying. This quote lays the problem bare. We are using up munitions, both for offense and defense, way faster than we can build them. Our industrial base just isn't ready for how quickly things get used up in a major modern war.
And when you look at the actual numbers, it gets pretty scary. It can take at least a year and a half just to replenish the stock of one type of interceptor. The reality is, for decades, Western manufacturing hasn't been scaled for this kind of intense conflict. And yeah, the orders are getting bigger, but ramping up these incredibly complex supply chains takes years, not weeks.
So that leaves us with this one final crucial question. In a long, grinding war of attrition, who actually wins? Is it the side with the most advanced, multi-million-dollar shields, or is it the side that can simply make the most arrows? The future of warfare might just depend on that answer.